So because what we create is very visual, we start visual. So we put together our sort of dream shopping basket. I mean, it's an art direction proposal. So we sort of from related to the non-related examples, we put together our direction proposal based on the strategy, based on the discovery, based on the findings. And we show clients what is it potentially that the ingredients is of and elements of the brand could look like.
What's up, branding experts? Arek here at Ebaqdesign. And welcome to On Branding Podcast, the only podcast where I interview branding experts to give you actionable tips on everything branding and beyond. And in this episode, I interview Radim Malinic, and we talk about brand identity for startups. And Radim is an award-winning creative director, graphic designer, speaker, and author based in London. He's also the person behind Brand New, which is a multidisciplinary firm that aims to offer a unique approach to branding, including graphic design, packaging, illustration, typography, and user experience. So through his persona of Brand New, Radim has been working with some of the biggest brands in the world, with clients including Nike, Harry Potter, Sprite, WWF, just to name a few. So Radim has published several books that are basically a collection of his work over the years, along with his tips and advice as a designer. So his latest book is called Book of Branding, and this is the book we are going to talk about today. So Radim is an expert when it comes to startup branding, and that's why I really wanted to have him on our podcast to talk about the process of branding a startup. Hello, Radim. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on our podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for that lovely introduction. Makes me sound quite important. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So I wanted to make this podcast actionable for our listeners, right? And talk about your brand identity design process, okay? So your book is, I have to say that it's fantastic. It's beautiful, it's beautifully designed, it's jargon-free, it's written in rather a conversational tone, and with a bunch of real-life case studies and examples, along with your tips and thoughts on the process, which really makes it easy to, understand. So before we talk about the process itself, I just wanted to talk about how much branding can cost, because you've got a chance to work with some of the biggest brands, but mostly you work with startups, right? So let's imagine that there is a startup and they want to build a strong brand and they believe in doing this the right way. So they want to work with an expert like yourself who can deliver top quality work, and therefore they get a good start in business. So whether it is for business owners who just want to have an idea of what kind of investment we are talking about at this level, or some of our listeners are creatives who are just curious, how much do you charge? So can you just speak to that a bit? What's the cost of branding a startup?
Wow. Yes, that's a very good question. I like that we start with money. Let's go for money first. It's a multifaceted question with a multifaceted answer. The actual term startup seems to be somewhat, again, multifaceted itself. I think startups, you get people who have an idea and they call themselves a startup because it's somewhat fashionable. I mean, startup is a scalable business who adapts and grows really quickly, whereas lots of people who call themselves startups, individuals, are small companies who literally are just starting up. And so in a true sense, I think there's a different meanings about what startup means. So you can have a startup with sort of seed funding, and you can have startup with, let's say, 50 people try to be a one thing, and then you can have someone who's a person who has got no funding and wants to start something new, and they would call themselves a startup. So I think we have to be sort of careful about who we relate to and who we work with, and who is that person, or who is that sort of startup and in its nature and in its size. Because a startup of a proper size, proper funding, can easily spend £100,000 on branding, marketing materials, website. They're fully fledged companies. So when you think, Airbnb is technically still a startup, Uber is still a startup, and their branding costs go through the roof, and their marketing costs go through the roof because of the scale of the application. It's very intricate, it's huge. So you can sort of, it's like kind of judging a sport that goes to the Olympic level and then goes to the grassroots level. So obviously, the Ubers and Airbnbs and all of those guys, they are very much the Olympics, whereas you get a grassroots level, which is this and that person trying to launch something new. So usually you would get the people that I have decided to work with, or so sort of point my studio towards, is people on a smaller basis. We like that newness. We like that sort of combustive passion from people who have an idea, they scramble some money together, and they want to get started. And the problem with what I think what lots of people make who want to work with startups, they expect that the first initial bill is going to be, let's say £50,000. They're like, okay, so startup XYZ's come to me and they said, we want branding identity, we want website, we want e-commerce, we want all of this, but they only have, let's say, £10,000 or £5,000. And most of designers or small studios will go, well, there's no point working with these guys because they're not paying exactly the money that you want them to pay. And the problem is with that, everyone starts small. Everyone starts on a small scale, and unless you have unlimited funds and investors, you're always going to come across to the point where you need obviously the bigger budget. So the problem, I think, the problem that people mainly make is that they get put off by this and they say it's not for me, or they wouldn't make it work. Whereas I see this as a sort of entry level, because when you think of it, we normally start around sort of the £10,000 mark for a basic identity and small application. So we do our sort of branding sort of strategy and positioning, and kind of we help through the eyes of a strategist. We look into what is it all about, what do we do, where does it slot into the market. Then we go into the creative process and we create identity depending on the size of a business. And then we do small application depending of what it is. Then usually we add e-commerce or just a website, and obviously it depends on the scope of application. So sometimes these projects can be initial payment of, let's say, £10,000, but overall through their lifetime, they can pay £50,000 to £100,000 in a space of a few years, just because we meet those people at the beginning with a sort of more appropriate budget. But we grow with them, or sort of they grow with us, if that makes sense. So we never get put off by sort of people having smaller budgets, because they grow into something bigger. Because no one at that, no one, that's a lie, but not many people that we work with have got £100,000 at the beginning, and it can seem a daunting amount of money to invest into something that is not proven concept. So yeah, it's not been unusual to have people who are proven VCs, or they work with proven VCs, having proven businesses that they've sold, that they will still want to invest only, let's say, $5,000 to $10,000 to start something new, to approve a concept as an MVP before they go into something else.
Right. Just to sum up for our listeners, so takeaway is, we need to. So what kind of startup? So it could be one person startup, or it could be a team who already raised money. So a startup can be of various age and size and things like that. So but basically you said that you start at 10,000 for a basic identity that includes strategy, and then you work with those clients, and they can turn to 50 or 100,000 pounds engagement later down the road, right? So
yeah, I mean, that is true. Yeah.
So just to give people a sense of what it could be 5, 10, or 50 to 100,000. It really depends. But usually starts like a minimum level of engagement would be $10,000, right? For something.
I mean, that is our entry level. I mean, I think you also we also sort out a lot of inquiries where people will try. I mean, we don't go below that price, because obviously that there's a studio cost, there's a human cost, human resources cost, and it also sort of makes people to actually make a commitment, because you can, if you work for lesser of a fee, you can work with anyone, and you can work twice as much and twice as long. And we know that through our process that I've so passionately devised into a book form, is just that the process that I've got in place dictates the success of delivery. So we work in a certain way that it's been tried and tested, and obviously it requires a certain amount of time that needs to be covered by that sort of first initial fee. Of course, you've got studios who don't work below £50,000, or you got studios don't go below £100,000.
Yeah.
But there's the core senior team here is the two people with sort of external team, and yeah, we bring people in on the basis of what we need at what time, and that suits us, and people feel that, oh, well, I have to work on initial budget of £20,000, but the thing is, how long is a piece of string? Because you can be working on something for double the money or triple the money, but you will get more requirements and more kind of just be more tied up, because the more people invest, the more nervous they become about what they're getting back. And this is all about questions of trust. So rather than sort of getting people from not paying through their nose at initial stages, this is all about proving that, if you make small investment and it works, usually you grow with the studio and with the client, vice versa, to deliver bigger things, and therefore enjoy it, because there's nothing worse than doubting clients who want every pound spent well, and they want return on that pound by asking you for extra changes and extra Zoom calls and extra bullshit that is not necessary. Right. Like, a branding is a mathematical equation. If you know where you're heading, you can again compare it to a sport. It's like a hockey. If you pass it in the right places and shoot it in the right corner, you score a goal. And that, I feel like that's the same with branding. Like, if you go the right, if you work out where you belong on the market, what's the competition, what's the white space, what's your nature, what's your archetype, you building together this visual story that has to add up and equal something, and that's
and there is not right and nice, because this is the next thing I wanted to talk about, because not so many people. So first of all, I just wanted to say that $10,000 is not a lot, because all the other, like Pentagram or other agencies, would charge in hundreds of thousands for similar quality work. So and the second thing is that not everyone can do that. Of course, you can hire someone, some designers that for less than that, but you mentioned your process. You have a proven framework, and that's what I wanted to talk about now. So since we've covered this, and we have some idea about the investment now, I want to start with brand discovery and talk about planning, before we actually jump into design. So now this is very important step, right? So can you just talk to us about the discovery phase? What are you looking for there? How do you interview stakeholders? How do you craft brand brief? How do you conduct visual research? Can you just talk to us?
I'm happy to. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm happy to sort of tell you all the secrets how we do it, even though they are not really secrets. What you've mentioned with the sort of the pentagrams and the world violins and sort of people paying more money, people need to also recognize that there's a different levels and layers to the branding identity. What we do is fairly simplified. We know about strategy, we know about positioning, but we are not a brand strategy agency. We don't try to be everything to every man. So when you've got a bigger startups, of course they come with bigger sort of hierarchy and infrastructure. That you've got a head of purpose and head of brand and head of design and head of marketing, and all those people have got different requirements, and therefore bigger agencies are better tailored to deliver on that, and therefore the fee is bigger, because you might find yourself that the actual price of the identity is £10,000, but everything else that goes in it, with activation and all of that stuff, that is where money goes. So also, yeah, bigger agencies can do sort of, they can fly out and they can interview people on the spot or in the different locations. Whereas what we've been doing, we've been very much pre-COVID ready. Like I'm running a studio from Kingston in London, Southwest London. My design partner is in Budapest, so we've been working remotely ever since. I've been running brand new for about 16, 17 years. Been in the game for nearly 20. And I've always been used to work people remotely, so I'm very good at asking questions, distilling, the meaning and answers from people, kind of getting the stuff that I need to know. And in our level, we tap into people's ambitions and aspirations, because most people who come to us do not know what branding identity itself entails. They haven't got a clue. They know they need a logo. They know they need a brand and speech marks. Like we need brand. But the reason also why I wrote the book is that it tailors to those people. Like it really simplifies it to what we do. So the first stage, as you quite rightfully said, is the sort of the planning and the strategy. And in a way, I can liken it to a dating. Like when you meet someone for the first time, they'll tell you how amazing they are and what they've done and all that sort of the shiny stuff. And then once you sort of get to know the person, you discover other personality traits. You discover other sort of things about a person that they would be withholding from you. Because when we meet someone, we're always the best version of ourselves. So the prospective client will tell you that they've got endless amount of money and they give you endless amount of creative freedom. The agency will be nodding like, yeah, we can do everything. We are the best in the world. And then the reality sort of creeps in and you realize that, the client hasn't got endless amount of money and they're not really letting in or trusting you too much. And the agency, can't do everything and they won't do everything well. So in that stage, we take time to understand our new clients, understand the startups, understand the market, also the market space, because we've been lucky to work pretty much across many different industries. We work from underwear to sportswear to CBD to vitamins to supplements to food, drinks, all the way to Harry Potter's and Nike's, creating digital sort of experiences. And it's fragmented. I mean, we do work across different landscapes and disciplines and industries, and it kind of keeps us fresh and interested, because you always have to kind of put on a different hat, or you have to put on a different pair of shoes, just to sort of to understand people's problems, because those who claim to know everything do not know at all what they're talking about. So we initially send a sort of branding questionnaire just to get the client thinking about what they need. Some people can come already with a brand brief. Some people can come with a creative brief. But most of the time, especially on a grassroots level, people haven't got a clue what they want. So we try to sort of work with them to extract from them what they're after. And
Right.
normally, if we do it via Zoom or via phone call, or sometimes we used to be able to do it in person, and it's all of this is about finding out answers, and also trust building. We get to know the people and we listen to them. It's not like, here's your brief. When can we see 3 ideas? Like, never. Go away. That we don't work that way. So it's a simple process, but we look at everything that person or the startup hasn't thought about.
Right. So just to sum up for our listeners, so you're working remote. So you've been ready for that. You've been working remotely, interviewing your clients via Zoom on phone call, sending out a questionnaire to fill out, asking the right questions, tapping into their ambitions and aspirations. And so what you are trying to do is you are trying to understand their business, right? And understand their market, because as you mentioned, every client is different and you've worked with across many different industries. So basically, what kind of is that you deliver a strategy brief? Is that you are working on defining things like brand purpose, target audience, and brand personality, selecting the right archetype?
I mean, it depends on a client scope and budget. Obviously, if someone needs a detailed brand strategy, that's a document and that's a delivery of its own. If we are just defining where we're heading with it, it's usually formatted in sort of art direction or sort of stimulus proposal.
Right.
If someone, it's almost like, imagine if someone needs a brand strategy document, that's a delivery of its own. we usually take those findings from our research and from conversations and form it into a visual part. So we based on the target demographic or the age demographic, excuse me, we feed it into a visual stimulus. We feed it into visual art direction proposal where we work with the client and say, okay, based on answers or based on our findings, based on our knowledge, based on our research, this is XYZ that we propose that we do for XYZ for delivery asset number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So we simplify it, because on those budgets, obviously, if you go to a brand strategy agency, it will cost you £20,000 just to get a strategy document put together. So it's, again, like we simplify the things, and we just take the right amount of the information and the right amount of findings and put them together just so we can sort of deliver within our price point. Then further down the line, those things can be extended and actually made more sort of voluptuous, more more bigger and more sort of concise. But what we do, like we obviously, depending on the size of the project, usually we, with the smaller persons, and especially for this particular podcast and interview, working with the smaller startups, obviously you don't overwhelm them with too many things that they might not even understand. So you just take the findings and feed them into the visual side of things.
Right. So so you conduct some interviews. This is the planning phase. This is the first phase. You develop some strategic insights, and this is to serve you in, so you basically base your creative directions, your concepts on those findings, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So it's right. So okay, so now I wanted to talk about the process, the design process. So how you actually move from those strategic insights into actually developing some concept, how you translate those findings into, for example, hey, we are going to look for the right typography. So how do we find the right typography?
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. So it's all done visually. So if you ask someone what they want, they will never tell you exactly what they really like, because they think that what they saw yesterday, that's what they like today. But you find out that actual sort of liking of something is totally different. So it's like that Henry Ford quote, if you ask people what they wanted, they would say faster horses and not cars. So because what we create is very visual, we start visual. So we put together our sort of dream shopping basket. I mean, it's an art direction proposal. So we sort of from related and non-related examples, we put together our direction proposal based on the strategy, based on the discovery, based on the findings, and we show clients what is it potentially that the ingredients is of and elements of the brand could look like. So we talk about different colors, the perception, how it's been done before, how it's been done in the different industries, how it's been done elsewhere, what's the peripheral vision or the brand view of target demographics. So we look at sort of products in a sort of similar price bracket across other sort of other industries, or let's say what shaving foam people buy, or what whiskey they drink, and how does it kind of slot into the brand view of an ideal persona. And we are working towards one idea, so we don't create 3 different logos or 6 different sort of websites or whatever. Like, we work on one idea. So through this process, through this conversation, we're really trying to get to the bottom of what is the sort of outcome of this equation. So as these people who we're working with, they don't know what's possible in a way. And we usually at this stage show them, okay, on this budget, you can actually have something which is 10 times bigger, better than you even understood. Because sometimes, you go to an agency and they can charge you £10,000 for a logo, and because they've got lots of staff and nice offices, but obviously we deliver on that budget, on that initial budget, a lot more. So it's a question of showing the people that this is the beginning, and this is when they get excited. And that's usually at this process where more budget is being found, or what we create lots of 3D imagery or like visual storytelling. people find extra budget for visuals, for brand assets. This is where things start to grow. It's quite interestingly. So yeah, that's what we do. Like we go from mood boards and visual stimulus into the design process, because until we agree what we're going to do with the client, there's no point of going forward. There's no point of doing a dance of like, do you like this? No. Do you like that? No. Can you change this? Can you make it bigger? Can you make it smaller? Can you make it red? Can you make it blue? Can you make it this? It's endless. There's this literally hundreds of thousands of designers doing that dance with their client every day on this planet, because we've all done it and we were all foolish, and it will never go away because it's never properly conducted.
Now we are going to take a quick break here, but we will be right back. Listen, my mission is to help people design iconic brands. So whether you're a business leader who wants to be more intentional with branding and all of its aspects, or you are a creative who wants to attract powerful clients and truly be able to help them with branding, then you need to start with a discovery session and then develop a strategy that will inform all your creative work. And everything you need to learn how to do that you can find in my online courses at ebaqdesign.com/shop, where I share with you my worksheets, case studies, video tutorials, and other additional resources to help you feel safe and strong about your process. Now let's get back to our conversation with Radim Malinic. It's true. So basically the takeaway is you start with mood boards. So based on that strategy, you get together with the team and you make some decisions about things like about visual language, the things like typography, color palette, and other layout and so on. You create some mood boards. So you try to basically take smaller steps with your client along the way. So once they approve those mood boards, then you're working on one idea, right? You're not presenting 5 or 10 concepts. So it's not like a big reveal. It's more of a collaborative process. You work with your client and you take smaller steps and have them approve the mood boards, and then work towards that.
If I could correct it, like we get them to approve our vision. So we show them what's possible. But we also come with a suggestion. So we say, okay, so this is our suggestion. This is how we feel that what you asked for, this is the answer. So we make suggestions because this is what we get paid for. So we lead the process and we explain, just like I would want an architect to build my dream house around what I want and what I need. How is it going to make me feel? That's what we do for our clients. Like we make the best and most educated judgment on what they need and suggestions. So that's how it works. But
so you show them what's possible and you work with them to bring that to life, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so now let's talk about developing other applications. So because since you've got the client's approval, let's say on the logo, and of course you present the logo on some basic applications, but then once the direction is approved, I assume that you all design other applications, right? So depending on the scope of work, it might be, I know that you do a lot of different things, including 3D graphic design, user experience, and things like that. So can we talk about that? What are some of the best practices or perhaps things to avoid at this stage? Can you just walk us through some of the most, perhaps the most common applications that you design for, a startup?
There's no such thing as the most common. There's always tailored to what the clients asked for. So there's no point showing them t-shirts when they will never need a t-shirt. There's no point of showing them tote bag when they will never print a tote bag. So it's based around what they make in. So we recently were branding a band, like almost like a virtual band, and we did lots of fashion designs for them, just kind of created clothing and create like how the guitars and the drums and it was like how the instruments would be branded, and kind of just like created the whole thing around it. And we did that at the logo stage. We did that in our first proposal because we are not creating just a singular sort of sticker or logo, like we're not creating that. We create an identity, therefore we show identity, how it works all together. And sometimes through the conversations with our clients, the logo itself it's a very much a part, not the pivotal sort of thing on a flag somewhere high up. It's very much a part of it. So our clients get very much excited about the visuals we can do, like the extra layers we can add, how it all slots together, and what story we can tell. Because I see our work in a hopefully not the least designer BS talk, like as actually we are visual storytellers. We really, through the conversations, we unearth so many interesting ideas that they are very useful for the application later. So we do try to present as much as possible at the reveal stage, because we have spent a few weeks or months working on the idea with the client, getting to the design stages. Therefore we show kind of as much as possible, because it's hard for anyone to envisage of what their brand could be just from a small logo on a piece of something. Like, we used to, I remember 20 years ago, we used to send like 5 logo ideas on a blank A4 PDF, and how stupid that was. It's I think I can have another idea of another hour of this podcast just talking about that, how stupid that was, because it was serving no one any purpose. It was just a beauty parade. Do you like this one? No, I like the 4th one. The one that you put there really quickly. Let's go for that. And you go like, oh Jesus Christ! Like, why was I doing this? So it is all about creating, showing the bigger product, or showing like what is it that you're creating. Because if I was to show you steering wheel of your favorite car, you'd be like, it's a steering wheel. Why are you showing to me? Show me the rest of the car. Right. And that's how I see it. And I mention it. What I mentioned in the book, as you know. I don't believe in a reveal of like, hey, you see this for the first time, what do you think? Like, that is a silly idea, again, being done every day, everywhere. Like, I record, when we're ready, I record a proposal along with the PDF or the video file that we've created, and I record a voiceover going through the deck myself to give this to the client 2 days prior us talking. So they've got 2 days to send it around the family, to send it around an investor, send it around anyone, and they've got time to digest it. Because if you showed me something new, I'd be like, whatever. Like, I remember renovating my house 2 years ago, and I went to the bathroom shop, and I was like, show me stuff. And they were showing me stuff, and I was like, doesn't make any sense to me, because there was no feedback. There was no sort of information exchange. It's just like, we are volunteering solutions and ideas, especially most people volunteer based on their personal preference. If a designer says, or I really like this option, I did for you. I was like, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't care what you think. Tell me it's gonna work. And therefore, when we talk to our clients, or when I present our proposals, it's based on what we believe and what we know will work. That's what it is. I mean, we put up visual preferences through some of the process. We have a bit of a signature style, or we have a sort of certain aesthetic, but everything else is driven by maths, science, human, whatever. No, it's not personal process as such. Like, you might have a favorite typeface, but doesn't mean it's going to look good in the right space. It's just that's what it is. So that's why I give people 2 days to understand the proposal. Through various trackers, you can see how many times, the Loom video has been viewed, or how many times the email has been opened in a different sort of location, because these people are seeking counsel. Because when they come to you with feedback, it's going to be a very good constructive feedback. They will have thought about it, rather than the number of zillions of times I've been into a boardroom on someone else's reveal, or someone else's work that someone asked me to do in the past, and you just watch these faces going like, what is this? Why are we here? And I've got other stuff to think about, and it doesn't work. And with this method, especially now in the new normal, I've been doing these presentations over video for the last 5 years, and they've been the best thing I've ever done.
Right. Awesome. So just as a takeaway, applications are always tailored to the client, and it's about showing the how the logo works with the whole identity. So it's about the the big picture, right? uh, and so it's everything that is there has a reason for being, so it's not about personal preferences, right? But this is something we've talked about earlier in about the strategy and discovery phase in coming up with that big idea. And you've also talked about many mistakes that we all make as designers at the beginning of our career, whether it be presenting too many logo design concepts on just a blank piece of paper that doesn't mean anything. Clients cannot see that working in the future, cannot visualize that. So that's one of those mistakes. So I just wanted to wrap up this by but trying to leave our listeners with some advice on how to produce better work. How to, so what advice would you give to someone who either wants to be a better designer, or just or just for startups themselves to hire a good designer? So what should they look for, or what should they avoid?
I think you're looking for people who think, not the best designers. Not every designer who's very good in their field is a good thinker. Now, you might have people who are very proficient, people who are talented, people who are skilled in doing good visuals, but not everyone is a good problem solver. Like the thing that people like to put on their Twitter profile. It's not problem solving. I feel is always such a wrong label that people like to put into their sort of their arsenal, because it's about personal connection, the thinking, and the human aspect. Is what makes good client connections and what makes good work ultimately. Because as I mentioned before, if you haven't got a trust, you've got nothing really. And if you haven't got the trust, then you haven't got, there's no such thing as creative freedom, but there's a space to create. Creative freedom is a whole thing to talk about, and on another topic. Like, it's creative freedom is carte blanche, which means you can do anything, which means nothing. Like, it doesn't add up. But you want thinkers that look outside the space, look what else is happening in the world, like look at what else is out there that makes people move and makes people excited. And that's what you need in your creative arsenal. Like, you need people who are good with other people, more or less. Because again, from a personal experience, I don't see myself as an extra sort of extroverted person or eloquent person, but I had to teach myself this. For many first years, I was very happy to be just a designer in a corner, and I had somebody else try to defend my work, but it yielded no good results. I had to step up. I had to come out of my shell. I had to be more extroverted. I had to be more proactive and hold the process and lead it, because only then you're in charge of your own destiny and your own work and your future. And I think that it comes with having time to think and grow and process to the stuff that you create. And so those people they're the best team players, because you might have the most talented illustrator, but if you can't really distill that, if you can't get that thing into the process properly, then again, it's no good to anyone. So I just believe that I feel like it's the mind over the skill, really, in a way, because you can always learn a skill. I mean, I've learned it myself. I know lots of people who are self-taught designers too, but my degree is in economics, and my interest is in in human science, really. Like, I mean, in human behavior, like that. That's what kind of what I bring to the table, And you're going to work with people of that sort of extra, sort of multifaceted, creative persuasion.
Right. So the takeaway is, so just to sum up for our listeners, you need to be a good thinker, a good problem solver, and as you mentioned, just mind over skill. So you can be a good designer, but you also need to be good with people, right? And also, I just wanted to. The last question would be, because in your book, you talk about why crowdsourced design is never a good idea. So, as the last question, can you just elaborate on that, just to give people a few
Well, I think I would like to
reasons
say that
why?
I would like to believe that everything I said in the last 40 minutes is exactly the reason why you shouldn't crowdsource the creativity. Because
Yeah,
unless you're looking for a band T-shirt or a singular piece of design, crowdsourcing doesn't work until, in my opinion. I mean, I try to demonize it in my book because I feel like even working in a studio, I feel like we were crowdsourcing fucking ideas because, and as you can tell, I'm still quite annoyed about what we used to do because being led by other people, we never saw each other's side. So we never really saw the client. We saw a brief. We never really understood what we were doing. We were just throwing pasta against the wall, hoping something would stick. And that was
right,
crowdsourcing within an agency, I would say. So if you put this, and you have someone in, let's say, Canada working with someone in Indonesia, sourcing design, I doubt that. I mean, again, the dance that I was describing, I quite enjoy saying the word dance because it's just such a nonsensical term for what I'm describing. But like this exchange that keeps happening in many different places right now is based on ignorance. Really, it's based on lack of
yeah,
knowledge, and I'm struggling to even think like, you're buying a skill from somewhere. So unless it's a mechanical artworking skills, like
yeah,
please insert this copy onto that page, you do not know who you're working with. You don't know you don't know their understanding. I work with my freelancers that I've been working for, let's say, 5 years, and they still misunderstand things. And
right,
we speak almost every day, like it's a human interaction. But when creative work always comes with people that they want to offer their best solution and the best idea, and that's not always needed. Like, you just need to listen to people, what they actually want, and then you can give them what they need based on what you understand. But we try to assert ourselves, we try to make people look good, we try to make ourselves look good. We want to retain clients, which sometimes is the stupidest idea because sometimes those people don't deserve to do good work. And it's just when you think of it like that's just a sort of combustive sort of human interaction and exchange that is muddled. It's muddled. And if people don't really understand what the other person needs or can provide, that's why crowdsourcing doesn't work, because there is not enough in that exchange for people to understand what they need to do or what is required. And yeah, I hear horror stories, and one of my friends put it really well, as he said that he's used Fiverr many times before, and he said he had to kiss a lot of frogs before he got to where he wanted to be. And I think he summarizes it, and I'm sure that for some people it works, but and I hope there's some some great success stories. But I I mean, it took me a long time to work it out for myself how I need to sort of run this agency, how to run this creative output to make sure that we do good work and enjoy it. And the book itself is the outcome of it, which was
yeah,
published last year, and it's done remarkable things in the industry for both clients and creatives, because it's written from experience. It's written from how we do this every day, and how I've navigated some of the most sort of difficult conversations and difficult work that
right,
we could do now with joy and enjoy it. So yeah,
right.
crowdsourcing, not a big fan, as you can tell. And as I said,
Yeah.
it can happen right under your nose. You don't have to be in a different side of the planet. Like, it can happen literally within the studio, because you can feel like you crowdsource. So yeah, that's what I see.
Awesome. So I recommend, of course, everyone to check out the book. As you mentioned, there's, you describe your process, you share your thoughts on the process, your tips and advice as a designer and strategist. But also, most importantly, you back up everything by showing, good examples of, your work. So so we can actually understand and see that and understand, which is really great. So as we are approaching the end of our episode, please let us know how we can find more about you and the work you do, and I will just include those links in the description box.
I will make it simple. I usually try to discourage people from following social media because we should be doing better things in life. So, but our Instagram is most up to date. We can be found at brandnew.studio. brandnew.studio. Our website is brandnew.co.uk, and my books can be found on Amazon, Book Depository, Wordery, everywhere else. And we've got a little online independent bookstore at novemberuniverse.co.uk. I can be found on other places, on personal Instagram and Twitter and elsewhere, which I encourage people. Well, I'd encourage. If people would like to, give us a follow or start a conversation, I'm always happy to oblige. But our books are independently published. We've been taking on the big boys since 2016, nearly for 5 years. And I'm glad that this interview is actually today because Book of Branding was released exactly a year ago tomorrow.
Anniversary, nice.
Anniversary, yeah. The Kindle version of the book will be released on the 1st of December, along with all the other Kindle books and our new title called Pause, Breathe and Grow. So as you could tell from our discussion today, I'm all about the human aspect. I'm all about what's behind the scenes. We all spend years and years looking at the big boys in the industry, kind of admiring them, but we don't know the struggles. And I'm all about telling people that it's a struggle first before it's fun. So there's a new book on the 1st of December called Pause, Breathe and Grow, which is a sort of more like a mindfulness journal about what we can do with ourselves in the industry to enjoy what we do, especially. So
looking forward to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely, you should. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And
thank you. I'm gonna include all those links for you guys, so you can check out the book and social handles, so you can find about Radim more and about his work. So Radim, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the request. And it's amazing to see how far something, I guess now as simple as it is, really a book format, can travel far and inspire people like yourself. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
So this is it for today's episode, and make sure to go and check out Radim's website and follow him on social media. And you can find all the links on this episode's page at ebaqdesign.com/podcast/21. So thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to my podcast for more tips on branding, strategy and design. This was Arek Dvornechuck from Ebaqdesign.